Alright guys, how you doing? It's Rabea. I hope you're all well. So I'm excited to show you guys this video today because I'm sure you all know who Misha Mansoor is of the band Periphery. He's also a mastermind when it comes to engineering and recording brutal progressive metal tones, and it's just an all-round legend. So he co-founded a company called Horizon Devices, of which they brought out a pedal called the Precision Drive, which you may remember. It's a sort of tube screamer on steroids with a built-in gate and a wicked sort of low-pass tightener knob as well. So I did a video of that earlier this year on my YouTube channel, which you can find in the description box. But today we're going to be looking at a brand new installment from Horizon Devices, and this is the Apex Preamp. So a quick bit about a preamp. For all those that are familiar with my channel, I've talked about this before, but anybody new to my channel, welcome. But also, a preamp is one of two parts of an amplifier. So when we're talking about an amp like any of these here, they have a preamp and a power amp. A preamp gives you all the tone and the sort of character and the feel and the response and everything, like the gain, everything like that. And then the power amp sort of just amplifies that. There's a bit of coloration depending on the power amp tubes you use, but it's really the preamp that gives you the color and the personality of any amplifier. So when people bring out preamp pedals, they're quite useful because there's different ways you can hook them up. You can put it into the return of an amp and just utilize the power tubes of your amplifier, and then all the preamp tone comes from a pedal like this, for example. Or you can put it in front and it can sort of boost your signal and lay its preamp sort of color over the top of your preamp, which is a lot of preamp pedals I prefer to use that way because you can sort of blend the two together, and I quite like doing that. And then the third way, you could run straight into a cab sim, or you could run into an interface. So there's plenty of ways to use preamps, and I'm going to be showing you into the front of my amp and then also straight into an interface, because there's a couple of cool features on the Apex which I'll get into right now. So for a start, as it's a preamp, it's got its own gain stage, an output volume, and then a 3-band EQ, so that's really cool. As you can see on the close-up here, you've got level, bass, middle, and treble, and gain. And something that's really wicked about the Horizon Devices pedals generally is they have built-in gates, as does the Apex, but this has been newly designed for this pedal. And it's worth pointing out, well, for a start it's here, but it's worth pointing out that when it's all the way to the left, the circuit is disengaged from completely, so there's no gate circuit within the signal path. But as soon as you start turning it up, you just get an increased intensity, and there's a blue light to indicate that it's on. The second cool feature, which is really cool, especially if you're running into the front of an interface, is we have a built-in cab simulator. Again, all the way off, it's bypassed, but when you turn it on, a red light indicates it's on, and you can basically, as you turn it up, it simulates a frequency sweep or a microphone sweep of the cab. So you'll hear different characteristics that go from like sort of punchy and subby through to MIDI, through to more bite, depending on where that sweep is. So that's mega useful in a recording application because you can layer up different mic positions and get different tones if you wanted to do it that way. So that's really wicked. And the third awesome feature is there's a tight switch, which is indicated here on the left with a red light. When it's not in, it's a looser, more saturated, saggy gain feel. When you push it in, it tightens everything up, reduces a bit of the gain. That's quite a nice, useful feature for tracking a lot of progressive metal style riffs and generally tighter rhythm tones. You layer a lot of those up with that tight switch. And that's basically the Apex preamp in a nutshell. So the most important thing to do is hear how it sounds. To do that, I've got a couple of guitars running into the VX Kraken on a low gain, and then that's getting captured through the 2 Notes Torpedo Studio and then the Universal Audio Apollo 8P interface. Let's check it out. Alright, I've got my PRS Pause guitar and running into gain 1 on the Kraken. This is how it sounds. It's nice and thick, and what I'm going to do is I'll start with the gate off and of course the cab sim off, because you probably don't want that on when you're running in front of an amp. You might get a phasey weird sound. Everything's at 12 o'clock. We'll take the tight switch off, and here we go. Well, for a start, the first thing I want to say is when you layer it on top of a preamp section like I am right now, it's not overkill. I've got the gain at halfway, so there's a lot of gain going on, and the EQ is all flat, and it sounds pretty fat, to be honest. It's saturated, thick, present. I can hear all the notes in the chord, even though there's lots of gain. You can do squeals like nothing. It's really, really quite nice sounding, especially if you want a heavy, brutal riffing tone. So let's carry on. I'm going to mess with the EQ a little bit. And one thing I'm hoping is that with the EQ, it's not super drastic, because, you know, for me, I like it when it just blends nicely, and the EQ they've chosen to affect is a subtle change, but a complementary change to the tone. So let's have a listen. So I'm really quite impressed so far. It's what I expected. The EQ is complementary in that sense that it's not completely drastic and unusable. Obviously you can suck all the bass out and it becomes very empty, and then you can add all the treble and it becomes very bitey, but I wouldn't say it's harsh or shrill in any kind of way. It's just more harmonic content up there. So I do like that. The level control, obviously we're pushing the front end of an amplifier, so it's really starting to break up and saturate, but it becomes nice and saggy and full. And of course there's tons of gain on tap, which is really nice, because with the precision drive it wasn't about having loads of gain, it was about affecting your amplifier, complementing it and helping you get a better tone in that sense. Whereas this, there's tons of gain to mess around with, which is always a good thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to boost the gain back up, and let's mess around with this tight control. So there we have it. So as you can hear, it's really tightened up. It's pulled out a bit of the gain, but it's not, the feel hasn't necessarily changed. It's just become tighter and more for rhythm and tighter stuff generally. But you can, as you can hear, it's maintained its mid-range presence and its saturation, but it's just, yeah, it's just a tidier sound. Okay, so now I'm going to try out the gate. So let's, at the minute, as I said, when you turn it all the way down, it's not engaged at all. It's out of the circuit, so it's not affecting the circuit in any way. But let's bring it in. One thing that's worth saying is the higher it goes, the more tight it becomes, the quicker the attack, essentially, so the quicker it acts on the sound. And then all the way up. That's immense. So the nice thing about the gate, although it's dramatic when you put it on full, and of course it achieves that very tight, like gated progressive metal thing, it doesn't it's not overly choking the sound. Again, I rolled my volume down just at the end there to see how quick it would step in, and it's still, you got quite a bit of headroom there. So yeah, a well-tuned gate. That's what I would expect from Horizon devices, because they definitely have aimed their products so far at the gainier side of things. So it's nice to see that they've made sure that gate acts the way it's supposed to and doesn't infringe upon what you're trying to achieve with your guitar playing. At this point, I want to swap over to something a bit heavier. So let's go extended range and see what kind of tones we can get. Okay, so I've got my guitar, my ML3 Beer Baritone, and this is loaded up with a bare knuckle Ragnarok, which is Misha's signature humbucker. Love the way this sounds in this guitar, so it should be a nice marriage with this particular preamp as such. In any case, this is what it sounds like straight into the Kraken. So it's quite thick, not a lot of definition, but let's set this as it was. Take the tight switch off, gates off, capstans off, here we go. Yes, this pedal works in lower range guitars, extended range guitars, whatever. It's immediately, I'm just into it. Like it's the sound of this guitar mixed with my amplifier. Just immediately, I can get that thick, tight, progressive metal kind of sound. And the cool thing is that if you noticed, what I tried to do was like lower the gain and then higher the gain, but then I throw on the tight switch. And then I threw in the noise gate, playing the same riff, so that you could hear how at first it was quite messy, and then I threw the tight switch on, it got really tight, sounded immense for those tight, palm muted kind of riffs. And then I boosted the gate even more to tidy it up, and really it just worked a treat at the end of the day. Like if I was tracking that riff and I wanted it to be really cleanly played and tight, and I was struggling with it, say, I can just boost up that gate, tidy everything up, hit the tight switch in. Yeah, really quite impressed with that. I think in terms of getting that thick, saturated, powerful, aggressive, mid-present tone for progressive metal users, it's definitely a good shout. Because my first impression, I've not heard this until this video, so my first impressions are really, really like it, especially with this guitar, this combo, trying to do the brutal heavy stuff. Yeah, it just sounds sick. yes, I'm convinced with this pedal. I am impressed, and I do like the way it sounds, and I would definitely recommend trying one of these out if you're playing 7 strings, baritones, 8 strings. You want the definition, the tightness, the saturation, and the support, definitely. And teamed up with the Kraken or any sort of high gain amplifier, put it on like a crunchy sort of tone, and it's a perfect blend. As I said, it's not super defined, it's quite a low gain on that Kraken, but the way it mixes together, tasty. So what I want to do now is throw it straight into the front of my Universal Audio Apollo, and let's see how it sounds with the cab sim. Okay, so at this point we've plugged it into the front of my Apollo, and the cab sim is currently off when it's turned all the way to the left. So what you're going to hear real quick is just a disgusting sound, which is essentially the sound of a gain stage with no speaker. So here it goes. It's just all the wrong things you want to hear are in that sound. In any case, now if I roll in the cab sim, I'm going to roll it all the way up and back down so you can hear how it works with the sweep. So here we go. Just going to roll it in a tiny bit so it's on. As you can see, the red light comes on. Here we go. That's cool. That's really cool, in fact, that you've got the little dial to do the mic sweep, because, you know, if you engineer guitars, I engineer guitars, and that's something that's really, you wish you had one of those mechanical arms that sits in front of a speaker and you can sit in the other room and listen to it and just find the perfect sound. So I do like that feature. I haven't seen that I've seen cab sims on a pedal before, but not a sort of mic sweep of the cab on a knob. That's really cool. Sounds best to me all the way over to the right. Maybe it's just the way it sounds in my room here, but it sounds best to me like that. So let's just have a little play and see how it sounds. So my opinion of using the Apex preamp in this application is that is a damn good sound straight out of the box into an interface. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm not running anything plugin wise. It's going straight through jack input and using the cab sweep. It's a really good sound. Genuinely, it's a good sound. Like if you're doing demos at home, or you just want to quickly track in an idea, all you need is that, your laptop, your guitar, and a little interface. And that's the kind of tone you can get straight out of the box. Yeah, fair play to Horizon Devices for thinking, especially of that mic sweep. That's a big plus for me with this pedal. And I think that, again, the EQ isn't so drastic even when it's going direct. Yeah, there's a lot of harmonic content, but you can just EQ that out and you probably get some ridiculous high gain metal progressive tones with just one box. So yeah, hats off. So there you go, guys. There's a look at the Horizon Devices Apex preamp. This retails for $299, and I'm assuming it will be available in the UK very soon, if not already, and I imagine you can get it at Anderton's. So what do I think of the Apex? I'm really impressed. It's innovative, it's small footprint, it sounds good, it's not stupidly expensive, And to be honest, it's such an easy pedal to use with great tones that you can take it in your backpack anywhere on tour, and you could get some ideas down. If you're into this kind of music, these kind of tones, then I definitely think it's a useful tool for you guys out there. I really like it with the baritone. I thought that's where it shone for me, because I think my other guitar was in sort of drop C sharp or drop D even, but the baritone, when I got down to that drop A dirty tuning, it still retained the clarity and the chord definition. So for me, that's a big plus always. I liked the EQ, I liked the way it sounded and reacted with my amplifier on a crunch, and even through my interface, which is something I wouldn't necessarily do. I wouldn't necessarily plug in and track like that, but I'm sure a lot of people out there do that, straight in direct. And to be honest, if you've got one of these, you'll probably find it very easy to get the tones you're after. So yeah, they've done a good job. Misha, once again, well done. Well done to Horizon Devices. Thank you for sending it across for me to review for you all. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, subscribe and share, and I will see you all very soon.